Hello, friends. This is your girl Lala. Welcome back. Okay, if you guys are new, then welcome. Welcome to the batshit crazy world that is my life inside my mind. Over this little series of story time stories, we are delving into what makes me tick. Okay, we're talking about the darkness, we're talking about the pain, we're talking about the brutality, we're talking about the R word, okay? We're talking about the child molesters, that kind of things. So if that's triggering for you, you're in the wrong place. But you know what? You should stay anyway because guess what? You can learn something and share with those people that you know that may need it. Okay? Okay. Story time. So where did we live off? Leave off. We left off at it was Christmas Eve, right? And per our religion, we did not celebrate Christmas. But my father insisted he wanted to celebrate Christmas because he wanted to spend a Christmas with me. My parents were always hot and cold, like I told you all. So I didn't see my father every week, every month, or even every year. So this time around the holidays, he's home. And so he convinced my mother to celebrate Christmas. Okay, so she's like, we can do that, but it's not going to be on Christmas Day, okay? Because per her religion, she didn't believe in that. That's end of that story. Done. But she gave presents on Christmas Eve, right? And this is when around this season, is when I discover that my father is a pedo. Okay. Now, I didn't know this obviously until it was just right there out in the open in our bedroom, nude and performing things. Okay, because you know YouTube can't say certain stuff, but y'all are smart enough to click that. So that happened, and I was extremely distraught because my dad was my hero. 100%, he was my hero. He could do no wrong in my eyes, even though I knew that my parents were always hot and cold. Oh, and let me just go ahead and jump into that story about my parents and what actually went down. Okay, so I think I may have touched on it in a video, maybe one of my first or second video, but either way, my father and my mother met at a slaughterhouse. Okay, here in the Dallas area, they met at a slaughterhouse. Now, before that, my father had been in some sort of deep relationship with his hometown honey. Okay, this was about 60 miles outside of Dallas, this little town, and he was promised to his homeschool honey, and it was supposed to be a thing. His mother had passed on by this point, but his sisters, he had three, really adored this woman. They thought she walked on water, honey. She was all the things and more. So he went off to the military. He was in the Air Force for a minute, and then he came back home, and it was said that they were supposed to be married. No engagement actually took place, but it was just known that okay, they're a couple, they're a thing. These are the steps that are going to likely come about in the future, right? And then that's what they thought. That is what they thought, meaning his sisters and the little hometown honey. And so when he came back from the military and got himself back into his normal stride of things, back into life, he takes a job at this slaughterhouse. And that's where he meets my mother. And then he completely ditches homegirl. Okay, completely ditched her. He's in love with this little old country thing, and that's what he was going for in this moment, right? That's my cats. Doing in the moment, right? Well, his sisters were very upset about that. Okay, extremely upset about that, and they took their frustrations out on my mother. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with her because they felt like she had stolen Butch from his life that he was supposed to have here. Now he was actually supposed to come back home to this little town, and he was supposed to stay there. But that's not what ended up happening. After he left the military and came back, he settled in Big D, okay, Big Dallas, and he forgot all about the little hometown that he was from. Okay, now he would go back and visit from time to time, but living, no, that that was done. That was not gonna happen. A wrap. And what about the little hometown, honey? Well, honey, well, Barbara was her name, y'all. Her name was Barbara. Mm, that was her name, Barbara. And so Barbara was in love with her some Butch, okay? And Butch was my father's nickname. Uh, Barbara loved Butch because my father was very attractive, extremely attractive. And he had that big old beautiful fro too, and that beautiful red skin. Oh, honey, all the things, all the things. So she had been waiting all these years for Butch. But Butch came back and went up to Dallas and met this little, he got a new job, got a new girl, and then forgot all about her. So my father's father was still alive, right? So he welcomed my mother just fine. He did. He welcomed her just fine, ingratiated her in the family. All things were fine with the dad. Three sisters were having none of it. So he ended up getting married to my mother. And again, forgot all about the little relationship he's gotten with hometown honey and married my mother instead. Well, so when they announced their engagement, his sisters didn't come to the wedding. They didn't come, they didn't celebrate, they did absolutely nothing. It wasn't worth their time. So that was a wrap for them. They didn't even bother. Okay. They wanted and my mother never did anything to them. Never did anything to them. She went to try to meet them. He invited her to come down to meet the sisters, but she no, from the yeah, no, from get go. No, they were not having it. So that was my mother's only visit. She never went back because they treated her real bad. So she was like, I'm not having none of it. So the dad, would come to Dallas and hang out with his son and his new daughter-in-law. But that was kind of the extent of the family. And his father, my mother, I think she said he died before I turned 2. So there was that. Now, speaking of turning 2, so my mother and father, they were together, living a little life. All things are great, so my mom thinks. But she comes home one day to discover all of his clothes are gone, as is he. He and his stuff is gone. Now, she said that she had been noticing that his belongings were kind of dwindling. Like she thought he had more possessions, but all of a sudden he's got this mediocre small amount, but she didn't think anything of it. But she came later to understand what he was actually doing was sneaking his clothes off a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And my mother was pregnant with me, early pregnant with me. And so he had been sneaking his possessions out a little bit at a time until he was just moved on out completely. And where did he go back to? Hometown honey. Although he remained living in Dallas, he remained living here, but he rekindled the relationship with hometown honey. And so it was this hot and cold thing, even with hometown honey, just as it was with my mother. Okay, this hot and cold relationship. So it just went on that way for years. And all of my years, I can tell you, up until the day that it stopped. And we'll get into that. But it was that way. It was always her. She was always around. And this is, I think, when we talked about it, when I told you that my mother sliced him open with a box cutter. Barbara had called the house and asked for him. And my mother obviously lost it. She completely lost it. That's what made her go off and slice him up the way she did, because she called apparently and she was so arrogant about the whole thing. She wanted to announce her name, she wanted to announce who she was, she wanted my mother to know that she was still in the picture and wasn't going anywhere. So that is when the argument ensued. So, and it led to, like I said, she sliced him up. And obviously she didn't press charges or anything like that, but naturally it would sour the relationship even further. So when I say that I didn't really see him that often, There was always some sort of little bickering, some little spat that would be going on, and it would all circle right on back to Barbara. It was always her. But even beyond her, there were these other ones in the mix from here and there, other ones. And is that right now in the story? Let me see. No, it's later. So I can talk about the other ones a little bit later. But for now, it's her. There are other women all around because we always had a horde of women, but the one that we know of 100% is her. Now, of course, word on the street, he's, dating this and he's dating that, he's going here, he's going there, word on the street. But my mother only physically saw and knew and spoke to Barbara. So, that being said, this is what led to them always being hot and cold because it was always something. Anytime they had an argument or a breakdown, he would leave. Now, I don't know if she would always put him out or did he just go on his own. But either way, something happened, they separated, and it would be 7 months here, a year and a half there, 3 months here. It was always something. So I never really saw him that often, as often as I would have liked to have seen him. So that's why when I did have him around, I wanted to live every moment in his presence because I didn't get to have him very often. And then what little girl doesn't love her daddy, right? Our daddies are our heroes, 100%. We think that they can just save the world for us, box it all up, and it's a gift wrapped for the end of eternity, until the end of eternity. But obviously, that's not how it always turns out to be, as in my case. But I have come to understand, like, I really don't. Obviously, I was so young, but I didn't really know him as well as I thought I did. Um, and so for me to discover something like that about him, just the cold and callous way, well, not that there is a better way, but no one wants to believe that. No one wants to acknowledge that. No one wants to have anything to do with that. And I was so hurt, as anyone would be, as you would be. You would be hurt too, right? Any of us would be and should be hurt to learn such devastating news about someone that you love and care for, even about someone you just know, even just in passing. That's not a good thing, right? At all. But for me, I was just so torn because I had reserved those kinds of people as devilish. You have to be just outright devilish to commit such an act. And such a harmful act, and our most vulnerable are our children, right? Can we all agree on that? Like, the children are the most vulnerable, and we suck in information like sponges. And then to have something like this happen is so very traumatic. It's so very devastating. And then to learn that it's your parent, right? Such a horrible thing. And it just completely erased everything that I had felt for him. But I was also ashamed for the erasure because I just, and I was a child, okay, y'all. I was so young. And that impression, that understanding that something like this is so close to me was, and it really, and I spiraled completely out of control at this point. I really did. And we're almost there, but not quite yet there. But we'll get there in a few more episodes. But I just started to spiral downhill after that because I just couldn't believe it. And it's so hard. Like, parents don't give children enough credit. Like, children feel as well, right? We feel, okay? The same things that are traumatic to an adult are equally as traumatic to a child, even more so. And a lot of people think they'll forget about it or they don't really understand what's going on. They're not mentally there yet. All of these things that are explained away a child's emotions. Well, I was none of those things. I was very much aware, very aware. And they raised me to be aware, right? They raised me to be aware. I was aware. I knew what everything meant and I knew exactly what was happening to me. Okay, I knew exactly what was happening to me and the person that I loved. I knew what was happening. There was no, I didn't easily forget it. I didn't misunderstand it. I didn't think it was something different. I didn't just the next day, no big deal. Not at all. None of those things occurred. None of them occurred. I was very self aware. So when we are opening up these presents, and our very, very first Christmas, right? Our very first Christmas, y'all, I was so broken because I had wanted this my whole little young life, right? I wanted this my whole life to celebrate this Christmas. And yes, it was just about all the gifts and stuff. I mean, come on, what child, 7, 8, 9-year-old isn't, wanting presents? Okay, of course it was all about the presents and not what the real holiday meant. I'm a child, okay? I am a child at this point. I'm 8. 8 at this point, right? So to have this special day finally, and then to have it marred by such trauma. And to this very day, y'all, Christmas means nothing. Now, of course, with my children, I do the celebrations, I do all the big ta-da, Christmas, I do all of those things for them, but I could care less. I could care less. And to wrap presents, oh no. The sound of wrapping paper just gets on my last nerve. That crinkly, crunchy, that sound that it all makes, because I'm drawn back to that day when we were going through that bag, unearthing all of our gifts. And so I'm immediately transported right back there every single year. I can never forget about it. Not even, and I want to. I really wish I could forget about it and cast it aside, but I can't do that. It's stuck right there. And it was just in absolute solemn disbelief that someone I love could be this. And you know what, y'all? I really have never dealt with that. I have really never dealt with it. I have whatever. I have put in a little box, compartmentalized, you know the word, anyway, long word, that word right there. Um, I placed it in its own box, and that's where I leave it. That's where I have left it all these years. But I am never free. Never a day am I free. Even though I've placed it in this little box and I've refused to actually deal with it, I've refused to bring it to the forefront and actually deal with it. I have gone to therapists. Yeah, I have. I've gone to therapists. Did all the talking, and more than just one. More than just one. Not just one and done. No, more than just one. Um, I just don't know how to unpack that. Well, that's why I'm here. But I don't know how to unpack that. It is so, even though I was the one that was harmed, okay, and my other loved one was the ones that were harmed, I I feel like I did something wrong in that moment. I'm ashamed of that. I am so very ashamed of that. And I have walked around through this life with my head hung down in shame. And I don't, that's another thing. When these things happen to us as children, even early teen, we take on the blame and the responsibility because we did nothing to stop it. So clearly we were okay with it. Otherwise, we would have brought an end to it, right? That's what I feel and hear myself saying in my mind, that I did not put a stop to this. I should have protected myself and this other from that. And I didn't do that. So yeah, I walk around feeling shame. I have been shamed into silence. And I just don't, I can't, it behooves me to even begin to believe that I am the only one that feels like that. I can't be the only one that feels like that. That can't, well, maybe, but the silence and the shame is absolutely deafening. Absolutely deafening. And I don't feel like that I was ever given a real space to where I can talk about it, um, beyond my therapist. Um, I was told by someone that I love very dearly, and I said they love me too, that the reason they can't talk with me about that is because they love me. And to even think about that, to even hear that is heartbreaking. So they don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about it. Well, then that gives me no one to talk to. That gives me absolutely no one to talk to. So I feel like I'm just alone, adrift in this whole thing, not without any direction and anyone to help. Anyone that I can just be myself around. I just don't have that. So I keep it all to myself, but that's doing more harm for me than it is good. And I have acted out in a million different ways because of it. So shortly after the Christmas celebration, it was a particular weekend, and the weekends were always chore duty. Okay, if you grew up in a black household, right? Weekends is chore patrol. So we had to do laundry. Okay, my loved one and I, we had to do laundry, and the wash interior was a few steps away from our actual apartment, down the stairs, and a hop, skip, and a jump, and then boom, there we are at the laundromat. So we're doing the laundry. Now, my mother always made us stay at the laundromat while we were doing laundry, okay? Because people were stealing possessions, right? So we had to stay with the clothes. We could never leave. Well, there was a set of twins that lived just across the hall from us, right? And they're in my loved one's age range, not mine. They're in her age range. So I don't know if they had words before. I don't think I even asked her. Did they have words before this event? What prompted it? Don't know. I don't think I even asked. But what I do remember is that they came into the laundry room all fired up, and they were gunning for my loved one. They were just going and going and going. Okay, they were going and not stopping. So words were exchanged because, honey, mine right there. No, she is not that type. If you got words, we've got words. You want to throw hands, we can throw hands. And remember, my mother said, if you get a whipping outside of this house, you get a whipping when you get back. So we didn't lose fights. But these twins double teamed my sister, okay? They double teamed her right then, right there. And what the brother ended up doing, oh, dirty, sneaky dog, was he turned off the light. in the laundromat, turned off the light so that they can deliver a whooping in the dark. Well, I'm there and I'm helping her, but then I also run over for a brief moment and turn the light back on so that we can get our blows in real good. Okay. So when we start throwing together, they ran out. They ran out, but like the fight was over. Fight wasn't over. They ran out. Okay, so we finish up. Still can't leave the clothes. We finish up doing all the laundry. We come back to the apartment. Tell my mom what had happened. eh, Tell my mom what happened, and what was that? Tell my mom what happened, and decide how we're gonna take care of it. Which at that point, this was I think a Saturday. A Saturday the twins' mother wasn't home. And my mother's not really the type of person that's going to go talk to the mom, but I remember her asking about her. But for whatever, she wasn't home because I think my mother went and knocked on the door. Because how else would we have known that she wasn't home? She must have knocked on the door and then no one answered. So that's why she just gauged that they wasn't home. So that was that. So that's, Saturday, Sunday, they don't come outside and play. We don't see them. Here comes Monday. Well, when they got back home from school, because my sister would get off out of school later than me. So by the time I would walk from elementary, uh, about a mile at the most, about a mile. I believe my sister was at Zoom Walk at this time. So by the time I got to Zoom Walk, she would be done. She also did ran track. I don't think she had track practice this day, or maybe it was a different season. So anyway, by the time we get home, now the twins are home. My sister, she caught them one by one. She was hanging and waiting, hanging over the banister, waiting for them to come up the darn stairs. Because she was going to clock them one by one. Well, who did she get first? It was that sister. The sister is who she got first, and she was tagging her. She was tagging, tagging, tagging. She was tagging that girl. Okay. And by the way, my mom is at home by now, right? Remember, she got a car now, so she's not catching the bus. She's home right on time, right? And so she was tagging that girl. And since there was not two people, the brother wasn't there. I didn't find it necessary for me to jump in and help. I did absolutely nothing. I was just standing there. And so she was tagging that girl. She was tagging. And I guess it had gotten so good that she had tried to throw the girl over the freaking banister. That is when I jumped in because I was not going to let her throw that girl over the freaking banister and hit that concrete. No, we weren't doing none of that. We weren't doing none of that. We weren't doing none of that. So I managed to stop her from doing that. By this time, my mom hears all the commotion and she comes out to find out what happened, right? So now my mother didn't know that my sister had planned the sneak attack on the girl. She only remembered what happened on Saturday, but she didn't know anything about the sneak attack. So my mom breaks up everything. That the girl goes back to her way. My sister goes back to her way. She never did catch the brother. But when the mom came home from work, she was livid. Because my sister was tagging that girl. She was tagging her. She was tagging. Her mother was livid. And she came beating on the door. Oh, she had a whole bunch of words to say. She had a whole bunch of words to say. And my mother was not the type for all those words, like I told y'all back in other videos. She was not the type for all of those words. But what she was the type to was to bring that heat. She's going to come and air it out real fast. And that's exactly what she came to do. The woman was outside the front door acting a darn fool. My mother went and got what she needed to get to air that place out. When my mother was walked out the door, my uncle, one of my uncles, lived in the same apartment complex, but not the same building, right? So my sister called my uncle. He drove the DART bus, right? Public transport, transit, DART, Dallas area rapid transit, right? DART. So he drove for DART. He was home by 3 o'clock in the afternoon because he worked the morning shift. So my sister called and told, "Hey, Mama, she's out there about to shoot this girl. She's out here about to shoot this girl. She's about to shoot this girl." He comes booking over. to the darn complex, got there in record timing, and was able to not only just wrestle that out of her hand, but to wrestle her back into the house. Because when my mother went to go and air it out, she had the girl standing at attention. The girl wasn't moving. The girl was, I mean, woman, whatever, wasn't moving. She had her standing at attention. My uncle came to get her, and then of course his twin. Yeah, we have several sets of twins in our family, and of course his twin came, which was my aunt, to also help facilitate the takedown, right, to get my mother back into that house and get that thing away from her, because obviously she's got kids to raise. She can't be going away doing 10 to 20 for some dumb stuff like that with kids. So, oh, okay, y'all, it has been 28 minutes. I am going to pick up where I left off. Just there's another it's another video is coming. It's coming. I told you it's a long way to go. A long way to go. So I'm gonna end it here because it's 30 minutes already. I talk too much and too long. I really do. And I will see. Don't forget to subscribe, okay? Don't why wouldn't you? If you are enjoying the story, come on. If you are enjoying the story, you should subscribe and you should leave me a comment because tell me what you like and what you didn't like. Okay, because see, I'm the patient, you're the therapist, and I'm asking y'all for help. I don't see a lot of helping going on down there. I really don't. Like none at all. I mean, that's on you. That is solidly on you. But I know if it were me, I would be helping. I would be subscribing. I would have something to say. Because if you think that you're batshit crazy, well, I wouldn't want you running around fast and loose in my neck of the woods. So, whatever. That's all on you. I will see y'all in the next video. All right, Lala.